everybody, how's it going? Let's talk about your home recording studio. Today, we're going to take a look at this little guy right here, the Native Instruments Komplete Audio 2. This is a 2-in, 2-out audio interface. Let's get a quick look at it here. I know things are kind of dark, but there we go. You know, definitely an attractive little 2x2 interface. Got a pretty good style and kind of look to it here. There's the back here real quick. So we'll take a closer look at it here on the other camera where the lighting's a little bit better. I started to do this video a week ago, and like literally in the middle of doing that video, I came down with a cold. Like it just hit fever, you know, everything. And I didn't have it together enough to finish that video. So as much as I love the concept of just on day one, taking an interface out of its box, installing it, configuring it, and then just making music with it, it just wasn't in the cards last week. So I'm taking a second swipe at it here this week. Pardon if the video is a little chopped up. I'm probably going to have to edit out a lot of coughing. I still haven't 100% gotten over this cold, so we'll see how it goes. All right, let's swing around over here. Let's take a closer look at this guy. All right, there he is in all of his glory. You know, now that I've actually had kind of a week to play around with this thing, I think that's a good thing. So this chassis is undeniably plastic. I mean, it is like 100% plastic on all sides. And that just kind of gives it just kind of this weird kind of cheapy feel when you handle it. But the plastic construction is definitely kind of made up for in a couple of ways. Number one, we have this awesome kind of top panel here to it. We have this multi-segment LED for our input signal levels. I think that is just great. I wish that more manufacturers did this. We got our 48-volt phantom power indicator and a USB signal indicator as well. And also on the top, you kind of can't miss it. This is our main out volume. Now I have to say, you know, as plasticky as this thing feels, this thing has the best knobs in the business. This top knob, this like master knob, is the most buttery smooth travel of any knob I've ever used on any audio interface. This is just like a tactile pleasure to adjust. And all the knobs on the front, there is like absolutely no wobble to them, and they all have this nice stiff resistance. I just really enjoy all of the knobs on this thing. It really kind of makes up for the plasticky overall feel of it. Like they don't wobble a bit. So, I mean, they are solid, they are sturdy. I hate to go on and on about the knobs, but I mean, between just the just joy that is this main master out knob, and then the just no wobble to any of the other knobs, I have to say Native Instruments got the knobs right on this thing. Just like any 2x2 interface, yeah, so we get our two main inputs here. These are combo inputs, so you can input XLR or quarter-inch TRS or TS. Both of them, kind of like this Scarlett 2i2, both of them have line or instrument capability, so you can actually plug two instruments in or two line inputs in. I'm actually kind of surprised at how many of these entry-level interfaces only have one or the other that you can switch to low Z for an instrument. But this one you can do it on both, which is pretty darn cool. Of course, we got our 48-volt phantom power. You know, again, like a, you know, that's an okay feeling switch. That one actually does feel a little kind of cheapy. We get our headphone, our TRS for a headphone in, and around on the back. One thing you'll notice immediately, now this is from Native Instruments, and Native Instruments definitely caters towards the electronic musician. And one thing that is just conspicuously absent is in any sort of MIDI 5-pin input or output here. I'm really kind of surprised that even on an entry-level interface that Native Instruments wouldn't provide MIDI. But I guess when it comes down to it, most of the entry-level MIDI gear is all USB anyways. I don't see a whole lot of 5-pin MIDI output on like entry-level MIDI controllers and things like that. So, you know, I guess it's all right, but that still just kind of strikes me as a little odd for a company that really is marketing towards electronic musicians. We get our main out, TRS balanced main out, and we get our USB output, USB 2 output. Although they colored it red, which might, I don't know, maybe that is USB 3. I didn't see it in the specs, but I can go check real quick. All right, so enough talking about this thing. What do you say we actually plug it in, make a little music through it? Now, one of the big kind of selling points of this interface, now this is $130 US. That's what they're retailing for. And as part of that, just like most audio interfaces, yeah, it comes with a software bundle. Now this thing has actually a pretty exemplary software bundle. I mean, there is more than I can ever scratch the surface of. I am not an electronic musician, so this is not the universe that I live in. So I'm just not super comfortable with that. So when it comes to learning Machine and Reactor and Kontakt, I'm not the guy you're gonna learn that from. There are plenty of other resources out there. So I am gonna make use of that here in today's kind of demonstration, but I just know that I'm only just barely scratching the surface. Now, Native Instruments also provides you a free copy of Ableton Live Lite. I believe they're on version 10 now. I do highly recommend you check that out. There are some amazing things that it can do. I am just not familiar with it, and rather than turning this into a video of watching me stumbling around in Ableton for half an hour, I'm just going to use what I know and what I know how to use, which is Reaper. So we're just going to start a project just kind of from scratch. We're going to layer it up. We're going to see what we end up with. I'm going to use as much of Native Instruments stuff as I can, but as I've bumped into its limitations, I am just going to lean on a few kind of built-in plugins within Reaper to kind of get the rest of the job done. All right, I guess first things first, we got to plug this thing in and we need to install it and configure it. Let's do that real quick. All right, so we're just going USB out of the back here. And then I'm just going to plug this into a front panel connector on my computer. Pretty much every interface, except for the Steinberg UR22, has been okay with that. So let's see how this works. We'll plug it in. We'll see if we get any activity here. All right, it's plugged in. Oh yeah, so I see on the top here. You may have missed it there. Oh yeah, we're getting a little light show here. I take it that is, wow, that's kind of a lengthy little light show. But I hope that means, we get our USB signal light. That's the important thing. So we're going to need drivers. And I did find that the drivers were pretty easy to locate. So let's just go to Native Instruments website. So I'm just going to Google Native Instruments. And let's see what we end up with. We end up at Native Instruments, native-instruments.com. And we're going to the English version. So we end up at their website. I think we're going to go to support and downloads. So, oh, that's native access. I don't want, so native access is actually how you're going to end up getting all your free software. So there's a serial number printed on the bottom of the KA2, and you're going to need to download native access, and through that is where you're going to type in your serial number, and then it'll show you everything you qualify for, and you can download, install all of it there. I've already got it downloaded and installed, so I'm not going to bother with that right now. And so let's kind of scroll down here and see updates for Komplete. Nope. Drivers, Service Center, and other files. I think that's what we want. And we get this kind of lengthy list here. So let's go until we find Komplete Audio 2. Komplete Audio 1 and 2. Here we go. All right, so we click on that. Hopefully it takes us somewhere. Maybe. Oh yeah, it's downloading down here. Sorry, that was my fault. So we end up with a zip file. So I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to show in folder. And that takes me here. And I'm going to right click and say extract all. And yes. And that takes me to the installer. Now version 459, although it has a different date on it. 2019, February 27th. And this said that it came out on March 13th. Okay. So let's just run it. All right, it's a little slow on the uptake here. Where'd he go? There he is. Welcome to blah, blah, blah. We'll say next. Of course, I accept the terms. And tell it where to install it and install. All right, I'm gonna give it just a minute to do its thing here. All right, next to continue and finish to close. All right, so that wasn't so bad, right? We had to fish around a little bit to kind of find the drivers, so they didn't point us just directly to it. But that's all right. Only took a minute to find it, a minute to download it, a minute to install it. So there we go. Just in a few minutes, we're up and running. I'm going to click up here. That should take us straight to our audio interface. So I'm running off of my RME interface right now. So instead, I want Complete Audio ASIO driver. Great. First is 1, last is 2. First is 1, last is 2. As always, we're going to uncheck these and see if we can control these, our sample rate and block size, through the ASIO driver for the KA2. Now, one thing I noticed, anybody that watched my review of the Behringer UMC 404 HD, this is exactly the same software. This is the exact same ASIO control panel as the Behringer products use. You know, it has the same weird input and output, same sliders, little blue knobs for the sliders. That's just kind of funny. I didn't expect that. So, and just like the Behringer, it doesn't give us, so it tells us what our sample rate is. Right now it's 44.1, but it doesn't give us a way to set it ourselves. So buffer settings, it does give us a way to control our buffer. So it defaults to 512 samples. That is not going to do for us because look at this latency. 16 milliseconds in, 12.5 milliseconds out. That's just crazy high. So let's bump it down to 128. And that gives us 5.5-ish out and 4.5-ish in. Or I'm sorry, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I got it mixed around, but whatever, you understand. So, you know, about 10-second round trip. I think that's okay. That's fine. You know, it's not stellar. But, you know, that's all right. And there's nothing else really useful in here since we can't set our sample rate. Okay, all right, well, we'll just leave it there. So that's when this little feature comes in handy. In your DAW, you can kind of override it. So let's check this. You're fine working in 44.1. This does do up to 192 kilohertz sample rate. I'm just not a big proponent of using that high of a sample rate in a home recording situation. So 44.1 is going to be fine for almost every application. Since I'm going to integrate this into a video, I am going to work at 48K. And let's just say okay. And hopefully up here, yeah, here we go. So it's telling us we're at 48K, 24-bit wave, 2 in, 2 out, 128 samples, 5.1 in, 4.1 or 4.5 out. All right, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so for ears, I am going to, oh man, I'm all tangled in my cables here. I am going to listen through some headphones, and then I will plug the outputs of this thing into an external recorder so you can hear what I'm doing. Let me do all that right real quick here. All right, I got all that hooked up here. So let's just see if we can get some signal through it in the first place. So I guess the first thing that I'm gonna wanna do, double click here. Let's open a new track and let's load up, I don't know, something. Maybe we'll load up something to make some drum sounds for us. So let's load up like maybe Kontakt. And I think, let's see, let's just try it maybe like under factory selection. Let's look at, yeah, how about this Drum Machine CR78? There we go. All right, so on this track, what I have is a MIDI controller. I'm using a Nectar Impact LX25 Plus, this little 25 key MIDI controller. I love the thing. So that's what I'm gonna be driving these virtual instruments with, all right? So with that in mind, we're gonna set our input to MIDI Impact LX25, and I'll just set it to all channels. All right, there we go. Okay. Okay, all right. I hear it. It looks like you hear it from what I can tell. I sure hope so, because if you can't hear it, this is going to be a really boring demonstration. All right, okay, all right, I like it. I'm going to just set the tempo to about 70 beats per minute. It's going to be kind of a slow jam. All right, next thing, normally I like to start with a bass guitar, so let's do that. I'm just gonna run a bass guitar direct into one of the instrument inputs on the KA2, And let's get that going real quick. All right, so I'm just gonna choose input number 1, and I'm gonna make sure, yep, we're over on the instrument setting here, not the line, but instrument. I'm gonna start with the gain about halfway up. Let me dial up a little bit of volume on the bass, and you can see there, like that's clipping. So I'm gonna dial it down just a little bit. And over on Reaper, I'm gonna create a new track. Oh, I should name this one, huh? Let's call this electronic drums. And we're gonna call this one bass. All right, and he's coming in, input 1, that's very good. And we will arm it for recording, turn monitoring on. There we go. All right, very cool. I'm just gonna kind of lay down a couple of like little bits and pieces, and we'll probably just loop those and kind of create an arrangement out of it. Okay, so we got those couple of little bass parts recorded. I think that's enough to at least start thinking about the arrangement of the song. You know, what are the pieces gonna be? So give me a few minutes here. I'm gonna try to kind of, you know, stitch this together based on that bass line to kind of come up with a bit of an arrangement. And then we'll start layering some other kind of cool stuff on top of here. Okay, I think I've at least got kind of a rough idea of what to do. Okay, so let's use a couple of more little bits and pieces out of the included software, and let's see where that can take us. I just kind of want this to almost talk a little, you know, to kind of have a little bit of a human feel to it. And honestly, one of the coolest things, in my opinion, that you can do with any sort of a machine that can accept both synthesizers and microphones is to use a vocoder. I freaking love it. Now, Native Instruments gives you no feasible way with the included software to do any sort of vocoding. They do offer a couple of vocoders, but with the software they include here, all you get is demo versions and a half hour to use them and all that crap, and we don't want to mess with that. So I am going to use the vocoder built into Reaper, and I'm going to see if I can take that synth part I just recorded and maybe kind of turn it into something that has a little bit of a human modulation to it. All right, one moment. All right, yeah, that actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, I love the vocoder. It's just something that'll never cease to be entertaining to me. All right, honestly, let's do that one more time, only with a different synth part. Maybe we add a little bit of kind of a synth solo to it or something. There we go. Okay, so now hopefully MIDI's coming in, and hopefully we can hear ourselves. All right, so this one I'm going to kind of try to, you know, sing and play it at the same time. And let's see, kind of see if the latency will allow me to do that. All right, that's just so much fun. Okay, all right, so I think we got, you know, a couple of kind of fun synth parts here. All right, one thing I would kind of like to do here is doctor up those drums. And, you know, I could just spend untold amounts of time just drilling down through all the Kontakt libraries and everything. But, you know, instead, I think I want to use my drums. Now, I don't want to mislead you here. If you're looking to record drums in your home studio, the Komplete Audio 2 is not the interface for you. You're going to want something with many more inputs. But I think for something kind of simple here, just the 2 inputs, I think we can make it work for purposes of this song here. So let's give it a try real quick. All right, let's take a quick look at our setup here. So I've got just a kick drum and a snare drum set up here. So on the outside of the kick drum, I've got a Sennheiser MD421. I tried it inside and it's a little too kind of, clicky, punchy for what I'm after here. So a couple inches away outside there. That one is plugged into input 1 of the interface, just straight in, nothing in between. And on input 2 of the interface, I have an Audix i5, just pointed right at the middle of the snare drum head. I got the snare drum tuned kind of low. I've got it pretty well dampened with a couple of moon gels here. That's just kind of the sound I'm going for. So I hope this turns out okay. Let's fire it off here, see what happens. I think to kind of top this thing off, let's layer like just a bunch of vocals and, get some kind of, I don't know, dreamy background vocals and then maybe some kind of, I don't know, almost droning lead vocals in there, all right? So for this, I'm going to use the Lewitt, again, the 440, and just like before, let me go figure out which cable that is. I got them all over the place here. And just like before, let's see here, one or two here. Let's just unplug both of these. That's the kick and snare. Here, let's just go ahead and plug this one into input number 1. Let's give it our phantom power. We got our little indicator here. And I guess this will give us a good opportunity to kind of see how the preamps actually, really sound. So far we've heard the preamps, on a, drums and a little bit of a vocoder. But so this is the Lewitt LCT 440 Pro, straight into the preamp of the KA2. So let me get the gain set here real quick. I got the gain kind of low. Test, 1, 2, test, 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 1, 2, test, 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 1, 2, test, test. There we go. Okay, so this is just direct monitoring, so you're just hearing straight off the preamp. All right, so let's just kind of just start piling on some vocal tracks here and see what we end up with, all right? Holy crap. I think we tracked the whole thing. All right. I know that was kind of just a lot of stuff to go through there, but all right. Final thoughts on this interface. The preamps, good. You know, they're every bit as good. They sound solid, every bit as good as any other preamp on any other interface in this kind of price range. I don't think anything about these preamps is going to hold you back. They got ample gain on tap to be able to handle, you know, something like a ribbon mic, and they have enough headroom to be able to handle something like, you know, I was recording drums and recording, you know, through a very sensitive condenser mic. So I think the preamps are solid. The box itself, yeah, it's plasticky, but man, the knobs are just like, you know, super stellar quality. Drivers seem, you know, fine. You know, they're again, just average for any of the other USB audio interfaces in this price range. And I think kind of the big selling point is the software bundle. Now, as you can kind of see in this project, I barely scratched the surface of this software bundle. I use like 2 or 3 virtual instruments out of there are like, I would seriously say hundreds in there, maybe a couple hundred different instruments and presets and all that kind of stuff. So at $130 US, I think that this thing is a pretty stellar value. It performed very well. Honestly, I went into this really kind of with a chip on my shoulder because this thing has a pretty bad reputation online. It's really new, so there's not a lot of reviews out there, but if you start reading the reviews, like there's a lot of kind of 3-star average and 3.5-star average where, you know, things from Focusrite and Behringer and you know, other brands are, you know, they're raking in 4 and 4.5-star averages in places like Amazon and Zounds and Sweetwater. But this one kind of suffers from like lack of reviews, and most seems like a lot of the people that have reviewed it have had problems with it, you know, for one reason or another. But I think at least it on my computer, actually on 2 computers now, I've been able to just install it just like any other audio interface. Plug it in, download the drivers, configure it, and I'm off to the races. So I didn't see anything problematic. I have my own reservations about Native Instruments, you know, downloader and their website and their licensing kind of stuff. A little kind of funky, and it did throw me more than once during this process. But honestly, I think that's a pretty good value. 130 bucks with a nice software package, nice robust little machine there. I think it's a pretty good deal. All right. Well, this has taken a long time. I have no idea how I'm ever going to edit this down to an acceptable, maybe 30-ish minutes. I've been recording for probably 3 hours tonight, just doing this. I've been having a great time. This has been so much fun. All right, well, I'm gonna finish up this mix, and hopefully the finished mix is what you will have heard already during the video. All right, that's gonna do it for me this time, and I will see you guys again next time.